using the idea of
Right.
free speech to force people, institutions, and companies to be his
So I found
mouthpieces.
out
This ain't free speech, it's
Lisa going live.
propaganda. Meanwhile, my Republican colleagues are out here having a meltdown over the European bill, one
What
that,
is happening?
by the way, includes provisions to fight child trafficking. You know, it's frustrating because we talk about being fiscally responsible and we talk about free speech. And right now, as we're having these discussions, you know who's trying to shut down members from voting in the way that they want to vote? It's the president, who literally said he would look at anyone who decided that they were going to vote to
Give me
release
a
the
second to get
Epstein
the
files
charger.
as hostile. That sounds like a threat as it relates to all First Amendment protections, in addition to the fact that it's literally contravening our constitutional duty that we swore an oath to, because we don't swear to an orange king. Instead, we have sworn an oath to the Constitution, and we were elected to represent the people that elected us. Thank you so much, and I'll yield.
Young lady yields. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the witnesses, thank you all for being here. This is a very important topic when we look at what's going on in Europe, and because of what's going on in Europe, what's happening by extension around the world. When we look at the encroachments on freedom of expression, freedom of speech, it is chilling.
Right.
It's remarkable that the countries that gave birth to the Western civilization that we all enjoy are really becoming totalitarian. And even points of expression that are organic to the United States, or statements made while in the United States, can result in being arrested once you return to Europe.
I don't know what my charger
If this was noted 15 to 20 years ago, people would not believe it. And
That's not
listening to the witnesses here who are on the ground, who are dealing with these totalitarian measures in Europe, it's worth noting to anyone who listens that they are thanking the President of the United States. They are begging the President, they're begging the Vice President and the Secretary of State to continue doing what they're doing, fighting this repression that's going on in Europe. And we've heard testimony that economic liberty is diminishing, freedom of opinion is diminishing, freedom of expression is gone, increased scrutiny of online comments, Twitter, Facebook, or X, excuse me, it's gone. All under the mantra of safety. And Mr. Price, I want to talk to you first. You said that these points of legislation are really aimed at, quote, protecting youth. How exactly are the proponents of these restrictive measures?
I've been keeping an eye
How are
on
they making the argument?
the AI stuff on YouTube.
Yes, that's the argument that makes her.
It's really coming from this.
Essentially lawful that people should be allowed to access, particularly in the United Kingdom, where the proposal now is to give, I think it's been passed, so it's in the process, 16-year-olds the vote would then be prevented from seeing certain content under the Online Safety Act.
And in terms of some of the examples you've mentioned that give me concern, it doesn't seem as though there's too much restriction for modern gender theory, transgenderism, aimed at children, or graphic or explicit material aimed at children.
What are you going on about?
Restrictions on pointing out verses of scripture or
Where did that just
truths
appear from?
You can't discuss that online. How does that factor into?
We just talked about something completely different,
Your point is well made.
and you just jumped to something completely different.
Smartphones with internet access have been available. Really, the iPhone was launched in 2008, and there were no immediate actions by governments or regulators to try and protect children from content. It's only after the election of Donald Trump and Brexit that there was suddenly an enormous effort at the European level to crack down on content in the name of safety. But I suspect, as I say, that there's an underlying political justification.
So what's the goal? I mean, we've talked about the diminishing prosperity, the freedom is gone. There's diminished enjoyment of life. There's diminished humor. There's zero free-flowing information. What's the goal besides complete political power?
Certainly think.
Oh, we're talking about power now.
You need to is narrative control. Information is the first and most important, as it were, quantity in a democracy. That's how we make our decisions based on what we hear. If you can restrict the amount of information that people hear, or you can channel it in one direction, then you influence the democracy. And as I say, there's increasing discontent in Europe about the direction of travel in so many areas.
Right, what's next? You're going to start doing AI for absolutely anything. Like I'm just talking. The waggy, even if it's just the waggy into your PC. Oh, can you just get? Can you?
Silence dissent and to move the
do this for us, and you can,
That's what I'm
whatever.
intending with the conversation today.
No.
In a lot of our work,
We're not falling for that.
it seems that Christians are disproportionately targeted. There was a dissenting opinion by
How can you like this?
called before the European Human Rights in 2022, where he made the observation that when it comes to speech, those who are critical of Islam seem to be prosecuted.
It's killing my brain.
Of the right to freedom of expression, whereas Christians, people who are critical of Christianism, are prosecuted, and they suddenly are entitled to free speech in that context. So in the UK, we often call this two-tier policing, and I think there's a two-tier approach to human rights. Certainly the Polish judge did, and I agree with him.
Interesting. Mr. Kay, just briefly, in regards to the points that you've made, I appreciate what you've said. I appreciate your perspectives. Would you admit at this point that the Biden administration was involved in suppressing information as it related to various components of the COVID response, the COVID treatment plans, the vaccines, efficacy, and so forth?
No, that is just not something I know.
You wouldn't stipulate to that? Even in, I know you criticize Mr. Zuckerberg for saying that the government leaned heavily on social media companies to remove content as it related to COVID. So you do not think that the government was engaged in suppressing information in any way?
Well, we know there was, because there's Supreme Court, cases around this, where the allegation was that officials in both administrations, the Trump and Biden administrations, did put some pressure on the companies in terms of public health messaging. There's no question about that. I think the court found that that didn't constitute unlawful pressure or coercion, but clearly those kinds of messages were part of the period of 2020, 2021.
Do you affirm that action by regulating content or no? Do you affirm the motivations or the actions of the Biden administration to suppress the COVID discussions?
No, I think there needs to be clear back and forth and information sharing between government and the largest platforms that shape the information environment. Of course, you don't want coercion, but I think you have to find the balance where that kind of back and forth can exist.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that they say they were coerced by the Biden administration. I think it appears to be a partisan interpretation when you say that it's reasonable what Biden did with Facebook and the actions that he did.
Well, I mean, we could go back and forth, but my view is that wasn't coercion, actually.
If you could type on Facebook, these vaccines do not work, would that have been allowed?
I think,
No,
honestly, I think it would depend on when we're talking about.
Under Biden, it would have been stripped. I'm sorry, our time's up, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Mr. Chairman, may I have just one very brief point?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make one point about hate speech, because there's been a lot of discussion about hate speech here. And I think it's valuable for us to at least understand the basis for where these hate speech laws come from.
Okay,
Most of the language from the international law on hate speech, particularly in Europe, was a result of the use of propaganda to target Jews and others during the Nazi Holocaust. So quite a bit of the hate speech is actually a response
Watch out,
to that
Nigel, you might
history.
get
And I
molested
think at
coming
least
soon.
acknowledging that is a part of the cultural freedom of expression background in Europe is useful, so that it's not just a kind of bullying of Europeans, but also an understanding of where they come from.
Yeah, but Mr. Price made the point, I think his last comments made the point about a two-tiered system, which they see, versus how certain Christians get treated versus how people of a different faith get treated. And if you even use that term, two-tiered system, you can be criticized for using the term about something that many people think exists currently in the UK and in the EU. So there's been lots of comments there. I'll give the chairman, the ranking member some time, and I got maybe one last question, one last point I would like to make.
Oh, thanks. This is just for a UC request, Mr. Chairman, because you had mentioned the outreach that you'd gotten from Mark Zuckerberg, and this is an article about that Meta to pay $25 million to settle 2021 Trump lawsuit. The sentence that stuck out to me was, the president signaled that the litigation had to be resolved before Zuckerberg could be, quote, brought into the tent, one of the people said. So
That's what the American would say.
Without objection?
And one other thing is just the Supreme Court decision, Murphy versus the Missouri, disproving the government's censorship claims.
Okay. been brought up several times, I believe. Well, I'll ask all of you. Mr. K, has President Trump banned any books in the country? Are you aware of any?
I don't know about him specifically, but I do know that, for example,
Price, you know President Trump's banned any books?
from defense libraries, books on Martin Luther King have actually been removed.
Has President Trump banned any books? I mean, my understanding, the way it works is you got a local library board, you got a local school board.
You're right.
And they may say certain books aren't appropriate for kids, which is frankly the argument they use in the EU on the Digital Services Act and UK on the Online Safety Act. No president's banning books. They're just saying, local library board are saying, second graders should maybe not see certain things that adults can see.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on that.
Sure.
Just because I've got constituents who are in the service abroad, and there are schools called DODEA schools, Department of Defense schools, and there was an executive order applying to the Department of Defense, and they shut down the school libraries there. These are federal schools, not local schools, federal schools. And they stripped all kinds of books from there, and there have been protests throughout Europe by American families over there saying that they don't want 1984 and Handmaid's Tale to be stripped from the schools.
With Monday.com's intuitive work management platform, you have the power. Not IT, not admins.
Oh,
You're
you
in
had
charge.
first.
So you can
What?
tailor work exactly how you love to do it. For example, you can add custom fields.
Boy,
And choose how you like to view your work without needing help from IT.
What?
That-
All members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional materials for the record.
Can I say one more thing, Mr. Chairman?
Ooh.
In praise of you?
Okay.
I might have designed it differently, but I want to thank you for organizing a very interesting trip for us and this hearing as well.
Without objection. Thank you. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Gosh, this has been brain damaging. We're just going to be on this for like another half an hour. It's ridiculous. It's absolute shit. What's going on? Don't want to go on. Oh, we're in the US House. Okay. Let's see what the US have got to say. I don't know if I can play that music. I might be able to, but it's kind of annoying, so. Well. I have been working on that Minecraft airport project. We've got I've got a war done. We've got a working fan. So it's only a start. We've still a lot more to do. There'll be updates and updates and updates. So stay tuned. But how? Blah. Grazer. How? I get certain stuff have to be restricted, but when you're talking about other like non-necessary stuff, which is you're probably correct there. Nigel probably doesn't have the balls to fix England. Oh my god, I happened to correct. It was Orek. Yeah, it's Orek. Oh. Okay, why did my screen just change? Sorry about this, I'm back on keyboard, I haven't been in it for... Why is he doing this? old one, so. Bit dodgeable on the other one. I've done something to it, but I don't know what I've done. So that music, it's actually so annoying. With the US, they actually like how they've done it, so it still looks old in a way. I quite like it. I'm starting to think it's too late to fix all this. Oh, wait. The live event has ended. What? So you literally just put us on there to waste our time. And it's just ended. Oh, gosh. I don't know what's happening. How can you have 100 likes for this? You're making the word. Oh, really? Oh, I don't know. Wow. Are we staying on this? Still got 100 people here. Their stream hasn't ended. Let's see what it said near the beginning.
Counterparts. European governments have tried everything to change this except what might actually work. Deregulating their own economy and letting free enterprise flourish. Instead of cutting red tape and allowing their own companies to innovate and grow, the EU and the UK are going after American companies that have grown to dominate the global tech landscape. Regulations like the EU's Digital Markets Act and the UK's Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act impose burdensome requirements on US tech companies while leaving their European counterparts untouched. But these attacks on American companies won't result in a so-called European champion. Instead, China wins as Europe hurts both itself and America. They make the user experience worse. They distort the digital marketplace by allowing less innovative and less efficient foreign competitors to simply steal from US tech companies. In addition to attacking American tech companies, Europe is attacking free speech around the world, including here in America. Laws like the Digital Services Act and the Online Safety Act are the engines of global censorship regime targeting political speech disfavored by European bureaucrats. The censorship mechanism is simple. The DSA and the OSA effectively require social media platforms to change their terms of service to moderate more content. These companies have one set of standards that they apply globally because it's costly, impractical, and harmful to user privacy to change content moderation rules based on the user's location. So when platforms are forced to change their terms of service to comply with European laws, it affects what we see, what we read, what we say online here in America, infringing on Americans' First Amendment rights. And this is no accident. Even the New York Times, The Atlantic have acknowledged that these foreign censorship laws are intended to have global impact. And European actions have proven it. Again, just look at Mr. Breton's letter. Supporters say these laws make the online environment safer for children, something that we all agree with. We all want to protect kids.
You know,
But censorship laws are never about disinformation or child safety or anything else. They're always about censoring criticism of the government. Social media is a relatively new technology, but censorship is as old as time. Misinformation, disinformation, hate speech labels are always used by the people in power to censor their critics. And my experience has taught me that today's misinformation is tomorrow's truth. And we have seen it time and time again. I always like to point out, everything the government told us about COVID turned out to be wrong. Everything our government told us about COVID. I'm not even talking about Europe here. Everything. They told us that the virus didn't come from a lab. Sure looks like it did. They told us it wasn't gain-of-function research done at the lab. Yes, it was. They told us it wasn't our tax money used at the lab. Yes, it was. They told us vaccines. They told us that the vaccinated can't get it. They told us the vaccinated can't transmit it. They told us masks work. They told us 6 feet social distance was based on science. And they told us this was the first virus in history where there's no such thing as natural immunity. They were 0 for 8. And yet they're going to define with some disinformation governance board what we can say, what we can tweet, what we can read, what we can post.
Why have you created COVID inside the lab?
As RFK Jr. testified before our committee, never forgot what he said. He said, when you look at history, it is never the good guys who are for censorship.
Then why about it?
It is always the bad guys, and that's our concern. We need debate. The best way to answer bad speech, wrong speech, stupid speech, crazy speech, even hate speech is more speech. We need the First Amendment. Our committee will continue to move legislation that protects free speech from threats, including threats from abroad. With that, I now recognize our ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our witnesses. I imagine that in a hearing about threats to freedom of speech abroad, we might hear from a Russian dissident about Putin's massive violations of political freedom, or the death of Alexei Navalny in prison, or perhaps a Chinese pro-democracy activist about President Xi's attacks on free speech in Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, or the persecution trial of Jimmy Lai. Or maybe a journalist about the Saudi Crown Prince's assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post writer who demanded freedom from religious persecution and oppression in Saudi Arabia. But no, the dictators of the world have got nothing to fear from this hearing. The Republicans called it to attack our democratic allies in Europe. The star witness is not a human rights leader like Navalny, but a far-right, pro-Putin politician who leads the UK Reform Party, a party that has 4 members out of 650 members in the parliament. He calls England an authoritarian regime, while saying that Vladimir Putin is the world leader he admires the most. Well, this hearing mimics Vice President J.D. Vance, who went to the Munich Security Conference in February. In the first 2 minutes of his speech, whitewashed the world's leading autocratic regimes, proclaiming that the threat that worries him is not Russia. It's not China, he said, but rather it's our European allies. Amazing. Republicans are promoting far-right parties in Europe, like Alternative for Deutschland, Reform UK, and Rassemblement National Français, and ignoring massive repression in Russia, China, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and among all the autocrats of the world. Republicans are vilifying European liberal democracies simply for engaging in the kind of line-drawing exercises that we Americans engage in under our First Amendment with respect to the epidemic of child pornography, protecting children from other harmful content, defamatory speech, online scams and false advertising, and speech inciting riots and imminent lawless action. All forms of speech that the First Amendment does not protect and whose tricky contours must still be drawn by law. We could have a meaningful hearing on this complicated subject, but this hearing is just a drive-by hit against a strong Democratic ally to benefit a Donald Trump sycophant and wannabe. But it's even worse than this. Not only are our colleagues ignoring intensifying repression in the world's dictatorships, they're also trying to distract the world from the attack on freedom taking place right here in America every single day. Americans aren't worried about the EU or the Online Safety Act in the UK. We're not worried about white nationalists not having enough license to incite lynch mobs to set immigrants on fire in their bedrooms. Americans are worried that Donald Trump is working to rewrite and whitewash American history in our museums, our textbooks, and our national parks, to destroy PBS, NPR, and public broadcasting, to ban books in our libraries, and to censor any news stories critical of him by installing political henchmen in private broadcast rooms. Americans know that academic freedom is in danger when the administration cancels and withholds billions of...
A bet. You know what you have to do? Fireball. There's a new ball in sport.
Studies about breast cancer or heart attacks as a way to force schools to impose government orthodoxy on... Academic freedom is in danger when the administration cancels and withholds billions of dollars in scientific and medical research funding from American universities, even for urgent life-saving studies about breast cancer or heart attacks, as a way to force schools to impose government orthodoxy on curriculum, hiring, admissions, and any student and faculty speech that MAGA considers politically incorrect. Americans see Trump trying to harass, intimidate, control, and shut down the press, like ABC, CBS, NBC, NPR, and PBS. The Republican-controlled FCC essentially blackmailed media companies Skydance and Paramount into agreeing to install a spy, a monitor, a minder, I think the Brits might say, to police CBS news programs to make sure that they are being sufficiently Trumpy in giving us the news in order to get approval of a merger from FCC. Meanwhile, Trump sued 60 Minutes and CBS personally for $20 billion for the frivolous cause of action that he thought an interview with Kamala Harris was edited too favorably, and then walked away with a cool $16 million in a shakedown settlement for his library, all part of a now familiar pattern. When Trump doesn't like the news, he sues the broadcaster and unleashes the FCC on them until they pay up and agree to a government spy stationed in their office. Free speech is so much in danger in the U.S. today that if the government tries to violate our rights, we might not even be able to find a lawyer to defend ourselves because Trump is systematically exacting retribution against law firms that represent anyone on the other side of a case against him. Look, our country loves free speech. We fight for free speech. We fought for free speech, and we know it's in danger when students who are lawfully in the United States are taken off the street and arrested without warrants by masked federal agents in unmarked cars for writing an article or attending a rally that Stephen Miller doesn't like. Free speech is in danger when visitors to our country have their social media accounts screened at the border for any criticism of Donald Trump. Free speech is in danger when To Kill a Mockingbird, The Handmaid's Tale, 1984, and The Kite Runner are banned from our schools and libraries across the country, and even families defending our freedom abroad have to fight for their kids' right to read freely in public schools run by the Department of Defense. Freedom's in danger when the administration tramples the civil service rights of hundreds of thousands of nonpartisan expert civil servants. These civil servants have been protected against political discrimination for more than a century to maintain the excellence and independence of our federal workforce, but they're now being fired simply for doing their jobs, like prosecuting violent criminals and insurrectionists who try to overthrow our government and attack our police officers, or because they honestly gave honest economic information and labor statistics to the public. These honorable civil servants are being fired because they won't be the political hacks Trump demands that they be. When private comments made by federal employees are scrutinized for anti-Trump bias and they can lose their jobs because of it, then we've entered the realm not just of Vladimir Putin, but of Joseph Stalin. Now, Mr. Trump...
This is what we've been mentioning quite a lot. It's happening all over YouTube. It's going to happen all over everywhere. You just will never be able to escape it now. Elon Musk is using it to spy on federal workers. Oh, wow. If things couldn't get any worse.
Mr. Farage both claim they're protectors of free speech, but they only want to protect speech they agree with. In the UK, Mr. Farage speech, but they only want to protect speech. Trump and Mr. Farage, both not just of Vladimir Putin, but of Joseph Stalin. Now, Mr. Trump and Mr. Farage both claim they're protectors of free speech, but they only want to protect speech they agree with. In the UK, Mr. Farage is openly promoting the abolition of the Human Rights Act of 1990.
So, it's free speech, only if Farage agrees with it. Check what?
1998 to be replaced with a British Bill of Rights that limits the right of free speech to British citizens and legally sanctioned residents. He complains that racist threats against immigrants are not protected free speech, while he proposes to strip migrants, tourists, and perhaps even visiting American congresspeople of any free speech rights at all. I had my own close encounter with that when Mr. Farage and his team presented for more than an hour in a conversation we had about free speech. And after 3 minutes of talking, he cut me off and terminated the meeting because he didn't like what I was saying.
Wow.
That's the kind of free speech he's committed to. There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has not shut down GB News, where Mr. Farage has his own show, just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with. No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator who has regularly interfered in other countries' democratic elections. No one has stopped Mr. Farage from parroting Putin's absurd talking points, when Farage claimed that NATO, the US and Britain, provoked this war in Ukraine. For a man who fashions himself as some kind of a free speech martyr,
I genuinely don't even know what's happening. Gosh.
Mr. Farage seems most at home with the autocrats and dictators of the world who are crushing freedom on earth. Mr. Farage wants to get rid of the Online Safety Act in his country, a law shepherded by the Conservative Party and implemented by the Labour Party, which bans child pornography online, protects children from harmful content, forbids non-consensual pornography and other unlawful content. He should go and advance the positions he's taking here in Congress today in Parliament, which is meeting today, if he's serious about it. To the people of UK who think this Putin-loving free speech imposter and Trump's...
I really like these Fitville men's
No one cares.
wide walking shoes.
Trump, sick of people of UK who think this Putin-loving free speech imposter and Trump sycophant will protect freedom in your country. Come on over to America and see what Trump and MAGA are doing to destroy our freedom, kidnap college students off the street, ban books from our libraries, militarize our police and unleash them against our communities, take over our universities, wreck our professional civil service, and turn the government into a money-making machine for Trump and his family. You might think twice before you let Mr. Farage make Britain great again. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I would just point out that
Not to mention it's not even Britain anymore. Oh no. I'm not even gonna go through all this. Why have we gave the Chagos Islands back? Let's see what maps. Chagos Islands. Wow. It's straight up there as well. What?
The encounter that the ranking member.
I don't even. Does it even? I'm guessing it finished. Yeah. Oh wow. Mark's gonna have to do it today. That's just. Yeah, I don't know.